Senator, recently a family in Arlington lost their 21-year-old son who was kidnapped and then murdered last year in August. To this day, they have no information as to how he was murdered despite their repeated requests to the Arlington County Police. And the incident had a chilling effect on all communities here. They do not feel safe. Let's talk to the family directly. What is the progress on the case?
We have
Speak a little louder, please.
We have filed a wrongful death case with the attorney, but for the last 2 months we are having very difficult time. Our attorney is having very difficult time for the Arlington Police County to give the police report or any kind of records which are related to this case. And as a mother, I'm thinking that we are going nowhere. I have myself gone to Washington, D.C., to the FBI headquarters often and called them at least 3 times a week. But every duty agent takes my request and says, we don't think we are going to take this case. And when I ask them this honest question that, can you please tell me why aren't you going to look into this case? I'm not saying whether you do anything, at least as a parent.
Okay, let me stop for a minute. Senator, it's not just lack of closure, but also the harsh treatment of the police that has complicated their grief process.
Well, and I can understand that, where you have such what appears to be a blatant set of facts. There's only a limited number of avenues that can be pursued. One is through the Commonwealth's attorney, which I understand has been pursued unsuccessfully. And because it is across state lines, the FBI would be another. I'm running for Attorney General, who works with the state police, who, as I understand, made the initial find, and they uncovered the murder. But they were denied the opportunity to continue the investigation because Arlington took it over. And I think the Attorney General can have an impact on that, can either push, because they have parallel jurisdiction to carry on the investigation through the state police, or they can push the Commonwealth's attorney to carry the case forward. Certainly this is one where you could see a civil verdict where there's a finding of wrongful death that then brings us back to the question, particularly for the Commonwealth's attorney there, Dick Trodden, where the question would be asked, well, now why aren't you carrying this case forward? This jury thought there was a wrongful death. What is your problem with carrying the case forward? And that may be how this one goes. There's no time limit on bringing a felony like this.
Okay, but does the bloodstain interpretation facilitate the investigation process when reconstructing a homicide?
Time always works against you. However, I will say that to the extent records are preserved, and I would be shocked if the Arlington police, they may resist turning them over, as has been described, but I would be downright shocked to hear that they're destroying any evidence or anything of that nature. And they do tend to be pretty darn thorough. So my hope would be that in the course of the civil case, a judge will order the police to produce the information that's been requested, because that is perfectly allowable in civil litigation. And that's part of the judge's role, is to force the flow of information within the case. So I think this is not the road I wish that they had been forced to. I would much rather see our public officials being more cooperative with the families of the victim. But I do believe they will ultimately get the information they're seeking.
The fact that they are not cooperating to this point, and it has been more than 8 or 9 months since the murder case, could it be a case of staged or manipulated murder scene?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily a reason to think so. And you also have the state trooper who originally came to the scene, who, if facts were attempted to be presented differently by the Arlington police, they'd always have to contend with that state trooper. And it's my understanding that state trooper feels pretty strongly that the case should go forward, but that they don't have authority to decide that. So I think that would be an extraordinary occurrence, almost unprecedented in Northern Virginia, to have a manipulation of the facts, a knowing manipulation of the facts to try and change the appearance of what happened.
The time is against you, and what if the culprit leaves the country and are not able to arrest? The delay between his indictment and arrest could violate his right to a speedy trial?
No. The right to a speedy trial is from the time you're taken into custody to the time of trial. It is not the speedy trial right, which is a constitutional right, is not from the point where a crime occurs. It is from the point where the police take you into custody. And then in Virginia, there's 9 months
not
or 5 months,
which is the standard delay?
Well, 5 months or 9, depending on the nature of bond and some other things, to bring that person to trial. And but that clock doesn't start ticking until he's picked up, and he hasn't been picked up yet.
But what if the police are negligent in pursuing these criminal investigations? The Arlington County Police, the Arlington prosecutor has closed the case?
Well, in that situation, our Commonwealth's attorneys are elected. And cases like this can be brought up in elections. Now, I hate, that doesn't get you resolution of the case. But what it does do is hold the person making the decision accountable. And that, that's a rough part of our democracy, but that's why we have those positions elected, is so that when the public, particularly in Arlington, is upset with the handling of cases, and presumably this does nothing to preserve the safety of the people of Arlington, to allow such a thing to go on without addressing it. And it certainly does nothing for the minority communities that live in Arlington, which are many, in terms of their faith and trust in the police and the Commonwealth's attorney. And that is not going to help them do their job.
This is not simply a matter of closure. It's not a matter of closure, although it is a matter of justice.
Right.
And it's a matter of justice being done, which will render closure. The objective here is to see that the local police, if they insist upon maintaining this within their jurisdiction, are doing their job. And if they are not, it is right, and within a democracy, it is our right, it is your right, to insist that they fulfill their obligations. And I urge you to continue to insist upon this, and programs such as this, gentlemen such as this who would come to your assistance and give this case the publicity and the dynamism from the people to insist upon justice being done, is the way that closure and that justice will happen. Continue to look and to gather allies and to make this case more public. And I think that we'll finally get something done. I agree with Ken that with the senator, that there probably was not a matter of tampering with evidence, because that is almost inconceivable and would involve criminal wrongdoing on the part of those who are charged with enforcing the criminal law. What is needed is insistent attention from outside Arlington, which has not gone forward on this. And I think you're going to see that that attention starts to come the way to this case.
Senator, what circumstances would prompt federal courts to examine unresolved cases of Virginia?
Well, it isn't the federal courts that do the examination.